Now let's talk about the golden rules of planning. I distinctly remember the day I heard the rules for the first time, but more importantly, the day I truly understood them. It was 2006, and I had just returned from my first tour in Afghanistan, where I commanded a troop of approximately 30 soldiers. A month after returning to Australia, I was sent on an 8-week planning course to a place called Puckapunyal. It was on this course that I would meet the American colonel who fundamentally changed how I think about planning and also how I live my life. A truly inspirational person. So to set the scene, it was the first day of the course, comprising about 50 students, all officers, and we were seated in the theaterette. At some point, the colonel got up to speak, and he said, "Hey guys, in a minute I'm going to tell you the 3 golden rules of planning. When I tell you these 3 rules, they will make sense to you, and you'll probably think you understand them. But when you truly understand them, when you get it, I will see it in your eyes and I will know. And it will change how you think about planning for the rest of your life." Okay, here they are. The first rule is you got to plan to the lowest level that you think you can, and then you got to go down one more. The second rule is you got to fight the enemy's reaction to your action, not their start state. And the third rule is the planning is more important than the plan. Now I can see you all sitting there thinking, yeah, I understand, but when you get it, I will see it in your eyes and I will know. Now, I will admit my reaction to this was that this guy must be used to working with people who weren't very sharp, because I believed I already understood the rules. In fact, I thought they were pretty self-explanatory, and quite frankly, there wasn't much to get. Anyway, the course progressed, and one morning I found myself with the colonel on the top of a small hill overlooking a town just outside of Puckapunyal to do a planning activity. Now, our mission for the activity was to determine how a small force should defend the town against a larger invading enemy force. Now, this is normally a pretty simple task, which just requires showing indicative areas using a circle on a map where you would place groups of soldiers. And I was starting to identify these areas when the colonel came up to me and said, "Hey Peter, what I want you to do is plan down to the individual level. I want you to identify where you would put individual soldiers on the map." Now this is not normal. And I remember thinking at the time it was an absolutely ridiculous task. In fact, it was a complete waste of time. So I did what all good Australian soldiers do. I made a token effort to placate the colonel and then just got on with writing the plan the way that I thought that I should. About an hour later, the colonel returned to check on me and he saw my token effort for what he was and he said, "Hey Peter, you didn't do what I asked. I told you to plan to the soldier level and you haven't. This is important. Do it properly." Now, I was just annoyed. But I didn't want to fail the course, and so I had to play by his rules. So I started to place individuals on the map. And as I got into it, a strange thing happened. I started to think about where individuals would actually be on the ground. And I realized my original high-level assessment didn't reflect how the soldiers would actually behave. And the more I progressed, the more I realized how wrong my original assessment was. Then I started to do the same thing for the enemy. And it was about this time that I got it. And it was like I had been struck by lightning. Now, at this point, the colonel was about 150 meters away walking across a paddock. He immediately recognized what was happening and he yelled at me across the paddock, "Hey Peter, you just got it, didn't you?" And I indicated that I had. We spent the next couple of hours talking about the implications of getting it. He reassured me that I wasn't ignorant or incompetent by not truly understanding the rules beforehand. In fact, you need a degree of experience before you can understand the nuances of the rules. But it was a pivotal moment in my career, and it fundamentally changed how I plan. So what do the 3 golden rules actually mean? Well, the first rule, plan to the lowest level you can, then go down one more, is all about understanding how the system behaves as best you can within the time constraints you have. In a business context, it's not just identifying at a high level about who your customers, your competitors, your suppliers, or your employees are, it's about analysing them to the lowest level of detail you can within your time constraints. It is about really understanding how the people and the system will behave in as granular a level as you can. The second rule, fight the enemy's reaction to your action, not their start state, is all about recognizing that the competition will never just sit back and let you execute your plan without responding. Therefore, every plan must preempt what may happen, not 1, but 2, 3, or even 4 steps ahead if you can. And you must build flexibility into the plan for these different contingencies. Systems are dynamic, and whenever you intervene in a system, it will change. So plan and prepare for it. And finally, the third and most important rule, the planning is more important than the plan, is all about recognizing the plan only gets you to the start line. And once you begin executing the plan, almost immediately things will change. But by virtue of the fact you have gone through a collaborative planning process means everyone starts with the same mental model. So when you do need to pivot or change the plan, it can be done quickly and with minimal friction. It is also about recognizing you never end up where you thought you would, and that planning is a continuous process and not a one-off event. Okay, now we're going to teach you how to plan using the Recon Group developed Decide Together planning process and how to apply these rules to business problems in more detail. Let's get going.